Okay, so Andrew, I have a podcasting question for you.
Sure.
So when real life podcasters get a little sick, like how do they handle that?
Sick, like what kind of sick are we talking?
I don't know, like maybe you have some congestion or your voice is, you got a frog in your throat. Basically how I feel right now.
Well, I gotta say, usually when podcasters have a cold, they sound better.
Oh, you think so?
I don't.
You think they should all get colds? Like we should all just be permanently ill so we sound better?
Yeah, like what? Like how do we hang on to that? Or could AI give us an audio filter? Maybe it's that raspiness. You know?
Yeah. Well,
it's like gravitas.
So go into Riverside right now if you don't mind. Open the dialogue up and click on the frog throat filter, and I think we'll be good for the episode.
All right. Go ahead. Let's test it.
How you doing, Andrew? It's part of Fridays.
Wow, you sound good.
Thank you so
sound
much.
Good. Welcome to Product Fridays. I am Andrew Phelps.
I am Andrew McGill.
Andrew, today we are talking about ChatGPT Pulse and some thoughts that we're thinking about what it could mean for, well, the world of AI, but specifically the news business. But we'll come back to that. What is ChatGPT Pulse and what has got you interested in it?
Okay, so ChatGPT Pulse might not be a feature that you've seen because it's a new product from OpenAI that lives in the ChatGPT app, but only for ChatGPT Pro users, which means you pay like $200 a month to get at, and I don't do that, unfortunately.
No.
But friend of the pod, Andrew Breeze, does pay for that.
Rich guy.
I think he expenses it. And he was like raving about it and sending me screenshots. And basically what it is a daily digest that's pushed through the ChatGPT app to you. And it connects to all your stuff, your email, your calendar, so you can find out what meetings are coming out. I mean, that's kind of cool. But the really interesting thing is that it scours the open web for news that it thinks you would find interesting. So for Andrew, it basically built out a little personal news digest for him, a little newsletter that was focused only on stuff he cared about. And I saw this and I'm like, this is what 50 to 90% of people will be using to read the news in 5 years. I saw the future.
Well, and I want to zoom into this one more level, which is LLMs, chat interfaces are very much a pull experience today, which is I have a query and I go open the app and I type it in and I wait for the answer and I have a thread about just this topic. And I'm not getting DMs or emails from ChatGPT. It's sort of over when the conversation is over. But what we're seeing now is LLMs have this like incredible body of knowledge about who you are, what you like, what you talk about, especially if it has access to your email and browsing history and all of that. And we can see chat interfaces becoming push interfaces where it's actually proactively going out and reading the internet and curating that, packaging it up, and serving it directly to you.
It actually sent me back to when I was a young reporter. When I worked at the Allentown Morning Call as a schools reporter, I had kind of two jobs. I had to go out to school board meetings and interview people and build sources and gather the facts. And then I had to come back and write it all up for the audience. And poor audience, because some of my writing was not very good. I thought I was like the second coming of Tom Wolfe or something. And the thing is, in the world of ChatGPT Pulse, my article, my reporting would potentially be fed into ChatGPT, and my readers would no longer be reading the words written by the reporter. They would be reading the facts gathered by the reporter, but repackaged by the machine. Which makes me think of something you said before, which is that we were moving into a world where the primary consumers of news aren't people, but they're actually machines.
Right. Machines that are querying news organizations, slurping up all of that fact gathering and repackaging it and rewriting it for the audience. In the future, presuming that we still have local news organizations, I sure hope that we do, that need for you, the cub reporter covering the school board, gathering facts is still there. We still need reporters to gather facts, but we don't always need reporters to be the ones to package up and write and distribute those facts.
Yeah, and I almost see in the future there might be like two types of publishers. And on one end is like I don't know if you call it like bespoke publisher luxury. I've heard another friend call it like artisanal publishers.
Yeah.
And these are creators or publications that you go to read their words, see their faces, hear their voices. You really care about the actual product they are producing. So I count The Atlantic in that. I want to read The Atlantic's words. I also count like some of the big Substacks I read or the podcasts I listen to. We're both fans of the McElroy brothers. Like I want to hear their thoughts and their voices on video games, and I'm willing to pay money to get that. And on the other end is, it's kind of a dirty word, but commodity news. And these are where I really care about the facts that these news organizations are digging up. But I don't really care about how they write it. And, I count the Associated Press on this. I mostly count the Washington Post. The New York Times is kind of on the edge because I do enjoy how they write stories and their analysis. But the most important job they are doing for me is digging up information. And I honestly want that to be fed into ChatGPT Pulse and formatted into this amazing custom to me news briefing. And that probably feels like a pretty big threat to existing publishers.
Well, unless they can figure out how to get paid for it.
Well, totally. And like, listen, you and I were at this conference up at the intersection of journalism and AI earlier this year, and this was like a whole panel discussion. Like
in Baltimore.
Exactly. How do we get paid for this? And one of the answers is, well, we sue them and try to recoup something. I think the more common model we've seen so far is like big partnerships. I think there's other examples too.
Well, this is what OpenAI has just done with News Corp, parent company of Wall Street Journal, of course. $250 million deal over several years to have permission to ingest the journal's premium journalism, as they refer to it. And I could see in the future these like these two poles on a spectrum where you've got like one group of news organizations that are embracing the future. Maybe there's sort of B2B deals with these big companies. And then the other side might be people building up higher walls around their content so it doesn't get scraped. And then, of course, there's sort of this huge middle, which is like there's a lot of news organizations that are not going to do big deals with OpenAI for whatever reason. So those orgs in the middle are the ones I'm really interested in.
Well, yeah, and that messy middle is really perilous right now, because if consumer behavior shifts to like the ChatGPT push model, the pulse model, those guys are screwed because they're raising their walls high. Their reporting isn't getting out. They don't have the heft to get a licensing deal and get paid money by these LLMs. And they don't have the exposure to get tons and tons of like money from the artisanal side of the business. Like that's their only hope, is to move over to the artisanal side, to the bespoke side, and try to like build a direct relationship. But that's like a really hard nut to crack. And I am very interested in a third model that could apply to these people. Can I tell you what it is?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do a little technical corner here real quick. I would love to bring my one-to-one relationship with the publisher into ChatGPT Pulse. And I think we can do this through this kind of arcane technical specification called MCP. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It is basically like a little language, like a universal language that's been adopted by pretty much every player.
And record speed, like less than a year, this has become the standard.
Incredible. That allows LLMs to communicate with basically anything else on the internet in a really standardized way. And the example I'm always thinking of is like hotels.com. If I tried to use ChatGPT like last year to book something on hotels.com, it would literally spin up a little fake computer and try to like click around on hotels.com for me and then maybe book a hotel. It just didn't work very well. What MCP allows is it actually sets up a little pipeline between hotels.com and ChatGPT where they know exactly the language they're speaking to each other. And ChatGPT knows that it can book a room on hotels.com and do it instantly without needing to like mess around with the fake internet browser. It's like a way computers can talk to each other in a predictable way, which is what LLMs need.
It's like the API for the LLM era.
Exactly, yeah. So I wonder if this kind of MCP protocol opens up a technological solution to this issue we were talking about, where fact-based publishers need to get their stuff into LLMs, but they also need to get paid. Like, I'm wondering if we could pay money to have publishers connect via MCP to ChatGPT on a one-to-one basis. Like, I would choose, hey, I want to include CNBC, and I want to include the AP, and I want to include the Economist in my ChatGPT Pulse. Let me pay them money to connect via MCP to their big database of reporting, and then they get paid money for all the fact-based stuff they're generating, and then I get to have the convenience of ChatGPT Pulse, and everyone gets paid for it.
Right, because what news organizations have as a strategic advantage is direct relationships. If I'm a New York Times, I have your email address, I have your reading history, your usage data, your preferences, and I don't need a third-party platform to serve you well. You're paying me directly. In a world where LLMs are becoming the primary interface for people, including for news, there's maybe less reason to go to the New York Times, but the value of the New York Times is just as great as it was before. So is there a can't beat 'em, join 'em, where LLMs with their mass reach can facilitate these direct relationships such that you can tick a little box that says the New York Times or CNBC or the Associated Press and actually go through a sign up and subscription flow right then and there. Of course, they lose the ability to control the distribution, the UI, UX, which I think a lot of people will not want to give up. But I do wonder if organizations like the Associated Press will embrace this kind of interaction.
Yeah, and I think it solves a little bit of that messy middle. And you mentioned CNBC. It's funny because CNBC is almost the perfect brand for this because big storied news gathering operation, gets amazing interviews, has access to tons of market data, but it's not universally useful to everyone. Like my mother-in-law is not watching CNBC. She's watching other stuff. She is not going to necessarily want to have CNBC be in her Pulse. She's not going to want to pay for that. But I would. I would love to have CNBC's financial reporting show up in a section of my curated ChatGPT Pulse report. Some recommendations on what I should do with my portfolio or something, I don't know. And the only way for that to happen right now is for OpenAI to do some gigantic deal with CNBC. And I think those deals are kind of petering out. I don't think there's not happening as much anymore. So can we instead build this one-to-one connection point where I can pay for CNBC to be injected into my personal instance and my mother-in-law doesn't have to?
Is the aggregation the point for you? Because there's nothing stopping you from going to the CNBC website and subscribing. But are we thinking that for a new audience that is not going to websites and that expects everything to be pushed to them via LLM, that's the opportunity?
Well, that's the thing. That's the stipulation, Andrew. I think Pulse is so magical and so obviously good on its face that it will remove the habits of going to certainly individual news websites. And I think it will replace our existing news aggregators like Apple News. It just is that convenient of a product.
Yeah. I'm very curious who will be at the front of this and experiment. Any news organization I work with as a consultant would want to try to hang on to that end-to-end control of the relationship as long as they possibly can. But it would also be a mistake to not even try to experiment with MCP and these technologies so that in a world where that's the way things go, you're ready rather than just starting from scratch and realizing you're too late.
Well, and I want to point out too that news organizations have already ceded so much ground to other platforms. It was Facebook for a long time, then it was Google. Both of those have gone downhill. And listen, your alma mater, Apple News. I feel like that was a big source of heartburn for a while. Oh, should we join Apple News? They have the relationship. And I will say, when we do customer interviews with news clients now, a lot of people do just get their news from Apple News. The aggregators are already out there and they're huge. ChatGPT Pulse is just the newest and biggest and maybe best one.
Of course, on Apple News, some of the biggest brands, like the New York Times, are not part of the platform because they're confident enough to know that they can attract people to their platform because they've got that premium content.
And I'm not saying everyone has to do this, and I might be wrong. And they don't even have to be exclusive. Maybe you still have a more bespoke product if you're CNBC, and then you also have more of a cheaper MCP-powered product that goes out to the people using ChatGPT Pulse. You can kind of do both, but I just see where the ball or the puck, whatever the phrase is going. And the fact that Like I'm talking to my buddy Andrew and he is raving. And he works at a news organization. He's raving so much about ChatGPT Pulse. Just means that I believe this is where the consumer attention is going. And we got to have an answer to it. And it can't just be, we're going to wall off everything with no recourse.
That'll be a fun space to watch. Shall we jump to honorable mentions?
Yes, please.
You got anything that you're working on, looking at, thinking about these days?
I have 2 honorable mentions, Andrew. Can I do both?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, one is that I've been playing around with the ChatGPT Agents SDK, which is like another wrapper on top of existing ChatGPT stuff, just to make like agent-based stuff even easier. And the use case I was playing with last night is that my sister-in-law wanted some coloring book pages of her family dog to help her kids like have a nicer morning and get out of the house easier. And being an overachiever, I was like, well, I'm not just going to go to my ChatGPT client and type in, make a picture of a black lab. I'm going to build out an agent. And it was actually a cinch to build out a quick little agent, coloring book agent that I had it render like little cartoon versions of the family dog and the family cat. And I'm like, please make 50 different images that will be fun for a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old to color. And it just did it. And it was like 10 lines of code. It was incredible.
I love it. I mean, last week on the last episode, we talked about whether there's value in wrapping ChatGPT when ChatGPT can already do everything for you. And my argument was, yes, there's value in creating a purpose-built product, even if all you're doing is putting a prompt around ChatGPT. Was everyone impressed? Did they praise you?
My sister-in-law was impressed and she did praise me. I don't know what the kids think yet, so TBD on that.
Okay. We'll have to have them on the show next week.
Okay. And my second honorable mention, sorry to do 2, is I recently paid a decent amount of money, actually, to do a big webinar by this designer developer who I love named Josh Camo called Whimsical Animations. He basically builds out these like online learning courses for like hyper-specific things for software engineers and front-end engineers. And he's just a beautiful coder. Like he makes amazing front-end design and front-end animations that just feel organic and amazing and alive. And in a world where I've been using Cursor and ChatGPT and Claude, all this stuff to make tons and tons of code and tons of apps, I saw his course on making these really fine handcrafted interactions. And I was like, I want to just dig into the craft of coding a bit. And his whole thing is like, hey, I use AI too all the time, but it's actually really hard to make these beautiful little delightful small grace notes. And it brings so much life to your applications that it's worth learning to do them by hand. And I'm going to teach you to do it. And I'm like super excited to start this course.
That's awesome.
What about you?
My honorable mention is ridiculous, which is, as you know, I'm obsessed with having high quality wireless fidelity, also known as Wi-Fi internet, blanketing my property.
Yes,
and I live in rural Connecticut where we do not have cell phone service, which makes me very angry.
To me.
So when you drop off for a second or you get out of range of your Wi-Fi, I just don't have internet. I don't have anything to bridge that gap. So I wanted to get Wi-Fi outside for 2 reasons. One, I would love for my wife to be able to sit on the front porch and have coffee be able to like use the internet for a call.
That's nice.
But 2, we've always got like delivery people or contractors coming through. Walmart Plus will have some delivery person come and they have to take a photo.
They're always like,
this, right? They like take a photo to prove that they delivered it, and then they have to send it back to the mothership to say this was delivered. And these people never have service.
Oh my God, I never thought of that.
I can't leave I'm sorry, sir, I can't leave your property until I can send this.
They're like holding on to the package.
Proof of delivery
You're
back.
trying
That's
to
right.
grab it from them?
Yeah, literally. I'm like, no, it's not not my problem. Like, I just want the package. So then I'm like inviting strangers to stand very close to the front door where there's a little bit of Wi-Fi.
Closer.
Giving them the guest Wi-Fi network and like, you want me to just type it in? And I can't handle that anymore. So I put a weatherproof outdoor wireless hotspot on the front porch. And some other day I'll tell you the nerdy backstory of how I ran the wire and all of that. And then I created a public Wi-Fi network, like no security, no password, and locked it down so that it's like it doesn't have access to any other resources in my house and my network. And now that's what I can give to like delivery people and contractors when they come over.
Incredible. When you told me that you were installing Wi-Fi outside, I was like, okay, this is like an Andrew boondoggle. That sounds incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a boondoggle, but it is valuable for those use cases.
Okay, well, this has been Product Fridays. Another Fridays on the bucket list, Andrew.
We did it again. And I would like to ask our listeners to help us out. We are on so many platforms, as you know. We're on Apple Podcasts. We would like you, the listeners, to rate and, if you're so inclined, write a review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Even if you don't use Apple Podcasts to listen to us, can you please go to Apple Podcasts and write a review? And we gotta make this worth the squeeze for people. I propose that everyone who writes a review of Product Fridays on Apple Podcasts will have their own limerick written by us or an LLM, but probably us. And we will use that limerick with your name in next week's show.
I love that. And it's going to be so fun to deal with whatever usernames we're going to have flowing into this.
Yeah.
But I'm committed. So we'll say it again. Please leave a rating and or a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you do that, on the next episode, we will read out loud a limerick featuring you.
Yes, you only get the limerick if you write the review.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
So write a review, please.
Okay.
I think that's it for me.
It for me. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, buddy.